Recorded. This meeting is being recorded.
Thank you, Jacques, and thank you all of you for being here. Can you all hear me? That's the main thing at the moment. I hope you can. Ian, I see you're there. I see Adre. Oh, so many people. Thank you for being here. I really do appreciate it. I'm always worried about time. Of course, we're all worried about time, but also worried about how you read poems and add them together or connect them to one another. I'm struggling this time until I happened upon a reminder of an old saying on Google or something about the old wedding rhyme. When somebody got married, they always had to have something old, something new, something borrowed, something blue. So I thought, well, that's okay for that's okay for a poetry reading. I promise you, I am not proposing marriage to any of you. So let's just get that clear first of all. So in the poems I've chosen tonight, there are some old ones, there are some newer ones. There's at least one that's borrowed, and maybe a couple, and a couple that are slightly blue as well. So I suppose, well, we'll see if it works.
This meeting is being.
Somebody's telling me something in the background. Am I being interrupted, or are we okay? I think we're okay. I thought I'd start off with the poem that was part of the advert for this reading tonight. It's called Whirligig. You know whirligig beetles, those little beetles that spin round on the surface of ponds and on still water and things like that. I've always loved them. I've always loved them. And it seems to me they're halfway between one world and another, but that's exactly where they should be. These particular whirligig beetles were on a little pond in the botanical garden in Grahamstown years ago. So this is an old poem, but we'll see how it goes. Whirligig. Skin dweller, facing neither depth nor height, you spin, skate across bright pond water. Without any doubt, we are intimates. I admire the real experts, Carson, Watson, Attenborough, Lopez, you, but I'm not one of them. Trifling rather, superficial, yet I sense that emptiness is sometimes worth having, worth being. Owning no clear voice, here I am, learning to sing. Despite two shambling left feet, I'm rehearsing this quick step with you. Friend, whatever lurks above, beneath, let's skim our shared double helix of vivid lightness across the surface of this fierce, whirling dervish of a gig. Let us dance. Okay, we've got the whirligig out of the way. We've just come through the holiday period, Christmas and New Year. I've got a couple of poems about those things. The first one I wrote, again, is quite an old poem now. I wrote it in Cinsa, where we used to have a place in the Eastern Cape. And Christmas is a time when you try to get in touch with everybody, wherever they are. And this poem is called FaceTime at Christmas. Here's the miracle of living right now. On your iPad, you chat with family, friends, instantly face to face across half a globe. Their seasons icily congealed from your summer day, these weaver birds, the sea. Isn't this, they all ask, progress? Of course. Don't wear your, and here, don't wear your thinking cap. More a deflection of thinking cap, more a lid. Take it off. Let your head breathe, sink into dune forest. A chestnut-eyed fly, bronze-bodied, cruises the tabletop, grazing like a rhino. A gecko, sprinting, solidifies to a hinge down the kitchen window. Swifts, swallows, are dark streaks kissing the eastern sky, above a rising hiss of nighttime bugs. And now, vanishing, we wait for the bats. All these, like FaceTime, are marvels. Living then, living now, living when. Touch the air, touch the screen, and wonder. An even older poem, also about Christmas, was written when I was living in Cheshire, before I ever came to South Africa. And it was a cold Cheshire Christmas time. And And I just had to escape from the family shenanigans that were going on. And I wandered out to a local village church in a little village just outside Congleton, where I was living, called Astbury. And in the Astbury churchyard, there's an ancient yew tree. Wonderful, wonderful old thing. It's been there for centuries. And it's so old that it's had to be propped in certain places. And you can go inside it, inside the trunk, but it's still living. And I just loved being in the churchyard in this cold winter Christmas day with the Astbury yew. For days we have walked together, the dead and I. We are as one, mind, limbs, and memory inert, shaped by muddles of forgotten cards, another plastic Christmas whose list of all-time greatest hits stretches back almost 7 years. Trailing dull shrouds, we have staggered here to this last December day. Now, God save us, comes the effort to live, springing to warmth again in a freezing Cheshire churchyard. With the company of Sarah, wife of the above, departed this life in 1760. No traffic jams, no Sky TV, just traditional Christmas awe and the teeth of this killing cold. When we find her, she has vanished, slipping from her mossed bank of slabs to haunt St. Mary's castled roof, grinning with the gargoyles that heave like New Year revellers in drains. For days we have sought together, the dead and I, this sacred place, its sharp crenellations, peace. But an ancient side door, iron barred, denies us. We turn to the wind. So here I stand, inside bones propped like a whale across the path. Your body rotting down, its flesh long gone, sinews fossilized as wood, muscles of sea-worn stone. Knuckles gnawed smooth by centuries clench themselves to defiant fists, perform the miracle of leaves. A rust-rich show of dark needles. Hold my shoulders close, protecting. Time passes, and I wander back, seeing holly, rhododendron stretch their living arms to the air, reminding all dead that Christmas is where blackbirds skip between worlds, window arches are trunks of yew, that even when the great west door is locked against the mindless ones, we'll find our sanctuary here. That's the Astbury yew. But then comes New Year. Last year, for the first time in my life, I kept my New Year's resolutions. I don't know how I did it, but I actually exceeded my New Year's resolutions. I will never do that again, I know. But this poem is called Resolving, about those times when I just haven't been able to keep anything like the resolutions I've made. Resolving. Answer them once more, all the questions of your life. Open the text at page 8 and face again the problems you faced last week, last month, last year. Easy enough when you know how. Long division, calculus, quadratic equations, sums. You've done them before, but somehow always got them wrong. If 5 policemen make 11 arrests in 3 raids on a gang of 17 Colombian gun runners, how many hours will it take in the 5th test for Australia to reduce England to ashes? The total, where X is 6.3, the lowest common denominator is a hoodie on crack, and Y is unanswerable, is that none of it matters. Each new year, another thump of your forehead against the brick of the world. Resolve that, and maybe we're getting somewhere. Okay. I don't know whether this is old, new, or anything. It's called making it. It's one of the things that I feel very strongly about, and the older I've got, the more I feel it. There comes a day, I think, when everything falls into place. When troubles die, the sun shines constantly, debts fade, and life makes sense. And does it matter that we are not what everyone expects of us? And do we learn to please ourselves at last and find ambitions lie in living here and now? At 30, 40, 50 and beyond, we dream of making it, achieving, of a day when we'll sit back in wisdom and congratulate ourselves on our success. We'll have the car, the mortgage paid, the kids established in their own careers, their gaze like ours upon the day when they'll sit back in wisdom and congratulate themselves. The problem is that we must waste our days discovering the truth instead of just accepting from the start we have it all. The opening of eyes upon the world is so much fantasy, and we believe the dream that dreaming is a myth. We can't, or can we, if we really try, respect the intuition of the child and grow from old to young, from death to birth again. Now, Jeannie asked me if I was going to read one of the poems from it's the collection that's part of the PhD thesis. This will be whenever the new collection comes out. I think this will be in it. I should tell you the title of the thesis first of all. It's so pretentious. All academic stuff sounds pretentious, doesn't it? But it's called "Towards a New Default Discourse for the Earth: The Poetry of Chris Mann and Dan Wiley." And part of my argument is that the default discourse of the world happens at the moment, in the Western world at least, to be that of capital, corporate money-making. And I believe that we as poets already have another discourse. And as eco-poets, perhaps, we have the discourse already given to us from a natural world that is talking all the time. So I'd like that kind of language to become our default. It won't replace the other stuff, but when we fall back on something, let's fall back on this rather than on money. Anyway, this is called crafting the default discourse. Let me be fluent in the language of fresh water. May my rhythm flow, intonation dance, words glint with a grammar of morning sunlight, whose liquid conversation floods the world with torrents of sound and meaning. May I be a tributary creek, refreshment, sip, song, cascading phrase, a word, a lyric essay. May streams of syntax pass the studious mountainside with scholarly fields, articulate stones. Let me be fluent in the lexicon of clear water, language of a thirsty earth. So we've had old, that's new. We're not up to borrowed yet, but we'll get there. This is another poem in similar style, I suppose, written this
Is Harry frozen for anyone else? Yes. Oh dear.
Yes, he has.
Harry, I don't know if you can hear us, but you're frozen and we can't hear you. Hopefully a connection that will sort itself out. Just bear with us, everybody. Okay, he's left the room, so he's probably going to go out and hopefully get back in again. Keep us on the edge of our seats.
Hello, everybody. I disappeared. Did you disappear?
We lost you,
yeah.
but we didn't disappear.
We
stayed on the edge of our seats for you.
I pity you, but never mind. I'm going to start that poem again, if that's okay. It's called pressure. I suppose if you're going to have a poem that you're interrupted in because of the pressure of the internet, that was the one to do it in, wasn't it? Okay, pressure. Halfway up a dune, under warm cloud, the ocean rolling faithfully in, hymning its canticle of eternal life, I am perched upon the granular bones of my ancestors. Pulse of blood pressure is sea pressure, earth pressure, tidal grit. All that other irritation's mere ambition, a rash. Bring me the creams, the healing unguent, some balm, and call it nature. There are roots here exposed in the sand, lotion. There are creeping plants and the skeletons of dune forest trees, soothing gels. There's a soft southerly breeze, calamine. I will recognize my rich good fortune, let it kiss the skin and be blessed. Whatever is divine, my brother, if not this? Meanwhile, the earth's voice is a murmur, warm and welcoming. Here it's the sea, the surf plunging in, but also the deep rumble of elephants, their recognitions, their loves. Or it's pachydermal thunder grumbling across the horizon, a fossicking for danger, warning and acknowledgement. Maternal, paternal, filial, felt in the very heart, the bone's marrow. Something borrowed. Something borrowed. I'm very fortunate. I have 4 grandchildren, 3 girls and a boy. The 2 first were, oh, hang on, let me get this right. Yes, the 2 first were girls, grandchildren. And then came a little boy, my son's son. And then very recently, in the last year or so, has come a 3rd granddaughter. They're all absolutely wonderful. Of course they are, even though I see some more often than others. The second of those grandchildren, the second of those granddaughters, is called Ottilie. Now, when I heard this name, I thought it would be spelled Ottilie, as is Robert Louis Stevenson's little poem called To Ottilie, spelt like that. But it's not. It's spelt like the animal. It's spelt Otterly. So I thought, well, Robert Louis Stevenson has beaten me to it, but at least I can borrow his style, even if I won't borrow his poem. So this is one of the borrowed ones. It's called To Ottilie, just as his is called that, but the spelling is different and the poem is different. Little poem, here it is. To Ottilie. In the springtime of the north, as bright mayflies burgeon forth along the brook, you'll wake to fill with new gold this nest, the family holt, another book. There'll be battles further on, and you'll prosper. Your season, gentle daughter, will kiss each stream and river, caress, protect, deliver silken water. And that's all it is, 2 short verses. Thank you, Robert Louis Stevenson. Our latest granddaughter, and she's only 14 months old now, 15 months, I don't know what she is. Absolutely staggeringly beautiful little girl. And she lives nearby, so I see her every day. When she was born, this tiny little thing, as they all are, but she had huge feet. I thought, what is this? What is this? This isn't a little girl, this is a jacana. You know, those little birds that walk along, they seem to walk on water, but of course they don't. They walk on lily pads. They've got massive feet. So this little poem I wrote for Leah, that's her name, and it's called Jacana. Heavens acclaim the Jesus bird because he descends to walk on water. Not true, of course, but watch him slip 2 elegant feet, toes slim as pencils between lily pads, kissing the surface like a benediction. He's delicate as air, miracle enough, no need for sacred marvels. Yet here you are, Leah, tiny bird, water dancing spirit. Africa has borne you, so where better now to blossom than this lily pond? Along the trail, brash guinea fowl, golden weavers, a spiraling buzzard applaud your birth. Cheeping miracle, they call, new-hatched jacana, Welcome to our world of song and sunlit wonders. That's Jacana for Leah. So that's new, isn't it? That's new enough. Something old, something new, something borrowed, something blue. Okay. It's just a little bit rude, that's all, not very much. Bluish. It's called Psalm for a Pond. Have you ever been next to a pond? There seems to be lots of ponds around tonight, but next to a pond, and it's just steady, and there's things flying over it, dragonflies and birds and all the rest of it. But then the pond goes gloop, gloop. Something is underneath, something is in there, and I don't know what it is. This happened to me. Psalm for a Pond. Grant us, O Lord, acquaintance with truth. Help us, please, to see what is. Under the pool's skin, something belches, fat bubbles, glooping like pustulous sores in mud. Every 2 or 3 seconds, gulp. This liquid surface, caked in dusty slime, is a conscious thing. Here's something solid, corporeal, flesh heaving like a bloated gut, croaking skyward, waiting to be born. No normal discharge of air, no green pulp decaying under stones or roots, but breath from a living lung. Dare you plunge your hand in, toy with a pulse? Do you have the nerve? Glance up instead for a star in the east. See it refracted dully in this fetid algal wash. Grant us in our world, O Lord, acquaintance with your truth, your truths. May this credulous sweat, beneath whose tension a mass heaves, throat and anus pulsing, live forever and ever. Amen. And the next one's a bit blue as well. So block your ears or do something, have some, get ready. It's a very short poem. It's a very short poem. Its title should give you a clue. It's called Homo flatulens. Of course, I know nothing of what you know. And it's clear that however much we talk ourselves up, everything we grasp is void of what is. Like you, I am a bloated gut, undigested, carbonated, full of gas. Too stupid to sense our own arrogance, too conceited to acknowledge just how unaware our little species is. We haven't yet found the charcoal to absorb the toxins of our soul. So we fart, hymning our hollow praises. How charmingly we reek. All right, you can unblock your ears now. Where are we? I do tend to be repeating myself a little bit, but the natural world and its part in our lives, or the part it should play in our lives, is very much what drives me. This is another old poem written in UK before I came here. And it was on the road down from where I was living in Congleton in Cheshire, and they were doing some roadworks, drilling and stuff like that. And it just made me start thinking about things. There was also an old building that they were demolishing. Anyway, here it is. It's called Nevermind. When did this concrete slab last grow a foxglove? And when did the forest last shade these floorboards? Decades and centuries no one is certain of tick by so patiently, back and towards. What is the universe expanding into, and will it be recognized once it gets there? Infinite isn't a word I can see through to darkest transparency's intimate stare. And who is this I my language identifies? Where is he lurking, and does I exist? Parasite, godliness, all that the word implies, sentient casserole, yes, I persist. But am I my brain or a soul that resides there? And when I forget himself, where does I go? Bundles of synapses, interconnected, share a breath of ineffable. Isn't it so? I may just be carbon or jelly or egg yolk, moving about in this fragment of time, but it is magical that I can here invoke part of life's quick step, exquisite, sublime. So when will this concrete slab next grow a foxglove? And when will the forest next shade these floorboards? Minutes, eternities, no one is certain of, tick imperceptibly back and towards. So I haven't really changed my mind over the years. I still find myself exercised by the same concerns, and most of them are to do with the natural world. I'm looking at the watch. Am I okay for time? Can somebody tell me?
Yes, keep going.
Okay, I'll keep going. This is another poem that it's actually it's an older poem, but it still appears or will appear in the new collection that comes out as a result of the thesis. Have you ever been on that website called academia.edu? No, I have. It's a weird thing. It invites you to upload your I don't know, your attitudes, your academic papers, your articles and things like that. But it's forever trying to push you in the direction of something or other. It's always asking you, is this you? Is this you? This poem is called, Is This You? Your name, or one very like it, is appended to this paper. Is this you? Radioactive neutrino mass model of the E-E+ linear collider interface. Is this you? No, I'm afraid it's not. Okay, we've found something in our archives that may well be yours. Here it is. Study of WIMP annihilations into a pair of on-shell scalar mediations. Is this you? Nope, it isn't. Or perhaps this fascinating exposition is more in line with your research interests. Higgs couplings and electroweak phase transition. Sorry, no, I'm a poet, not a physicist. Then, how about this literary investigation dredged from our online vaults? Louisa, or Virtue in Distress, being the history of a natural daughter of ladies someone or other, a critical summary. Sound like you? No, not me, certainly not me. Or maybe the theme of death, insignificance, and absurdity in Tom Stoppard's play Rosencrantz and Guildenstern are dead. You! Could this be you? Listen, you're beginning to annoy me. World War I and the Thessalonica front. I've told you no. Poetry. How about a critical review of continental self-agreement? You, is this you? No, stop it. Well, here's Obstetrics Gynecology, an evidence-based text for the MRCOG, 3rd edition. Isn't this you? Couldn't this be you? Surely it must be. Please. That's it. I do advise you to go on to academia.edu. Your life will never be the same. I've got 2 more poems. I hope that's enough for this evening. This is, I wrote here near where I live in Kylemore, near Stellenbosch now. We live on God help me, we live on a gated community, and it's very nice. It's absolutely beautiful. But there's a fence all the way around it. And it's an electrified fence, and there's a gate, and there are guards and all that sort of stuff. So when you're wandering around, even with mountains all around, it's absolutely gorgeous. But I always feel as if I'm under house arrest somehow. But you can go down, there's a little stream running through, and I sometimes go out there just to find a bit of peace. This poem is called Noise and Nature. A helmeted child of 6 or 7 roars around in a haze of fumes on a miniature motorbike, just beyond the perimeter fence, shouting at his brother. Mechanical uproar screeches in the place I've strolled to, hoping to find a little peace. But it isn't here, and I'm less and less patient with the world of people. Elsewhere, one large frog, olive green, squats like a placid gargoyle on the lily pond's brick rim. It's summer now, and he's doing well. This rugged amphibian star. Luminary. I'll christen him Marlon. Nearby, I lean against a log, pay close attention above cicada scrizzle and a faintly droning lawnmower to the gentle guttural riff of croak and coot rattle, a friendly mill pond welcome. A single mauve spider, lateral stripe and alert, joins me, and we eye one another curiously, warily, before he decides I'm no threat, scuttles off about his business under flaking dry bark. My gratitude to him, for we need this place, its quiet spirit, company and reassurance, need it simply to stay alive. Last one. I am aware that I'm a bit repetitious. Maybe all poets are like, did you ever get that? You feel you've said all this before and you're just saying the same thing over and over again. You're trying to find new ways of saying it, but occasionally something jumps into your head and you think, yeah, I need to say it anyway. I often feel that way. This is an older poem, slightly changed from when I first put it out. And it's the one I'll finish with, if I may. It's something I feel, and I suspect most of us feel very strongly about. It's called Say Something. Say something about us, about scarcity, squalor, disease, about avarice, lust and massacre, about bloodshed, torture, crime, about celebrity, ignorance and bling, about politics. Say something about Syria, Ukraine, Afghanistan. Say something about Gaza and 1,000 other wretched places. Say something about war. Say something about sweatshops, jobs and slavery, about poisoning, pollution and pimps, about fracking the Karoo, the obscene nonsense of sustainable growth, about things that waste and die, that we're killing along with ourselves, about China. Say something about elephant, rhino and lion, about tiger, orangutan, pangolin, condor, dolphin and whale. Say something about the planet, our lovely threatened globe, about me, about ours, about us. Say something about sickness of the body, of the TV mind, of the right to speak out, of the heart, of the soul, about death, about death, about death. Say something about husbands, wives and daughters, about sisters, brothers, sons. Say something about corruption, about murder and rape, about loneliness, sorrow, wickedness, despair. Say something about gods and gullibility, about faith, about bigotry and sin, about daydreams and night terrors, the childish compulsion to believe. Then pause and say something, if you can, whisper it, about peace, about hope, about life. Say something about them, about us, the same, we're the same, some honor, some decency, some light, some love, not gods, not spirits, not heavens, not hells, but us alone, something that we are. Speak it and speak it and speak it. Speak us. Thank you very much. That's the end of it.
Harry, I don't know if you can hear me.
I can indeed, yes.
This is wonderful. Because I lost the ability to mute and unmute at some stage, but I've found it again.
Well,
Harry,
you're unmuted. I can hear you, Jack. That's fine.
That was just an amazing reading and a wondrous reading. And it's something that we always know when we're about to listen to you, that we're going to be hinged into a sense of wonder. And it's reassuring to know that there's this reliable thing that we hear in your voice, that even when there is, whether there's doubt or rage or uncertainty, there's always also the sense of wonder. And it's something, I think it's something that we cherish, and it's a wonderful thing. So can we put our hands together and give Harry a round of applause? Okay. Having trouble unmuting it. You're in good company, by the way, because about 10 years ago, I was lucky enough to make it to the Hay Festival, and it was the centenary of R.S. Thomas. Much was made of him in the year of the centenary of his birth, and there was an anecdote of him that he, at a poetry reading in his 80s, and he was looking for a particular poem. He was about to start reading something, and he said, "Well, I was actually looking for something else, but all my ones are the same." So you can come.
He had a reputation for being a bit of a miserable old git, you know that, don't you? But I like his poetry.
He's wonderful. He's a wonderful poet. Yes, I do know he has that reputation, but I always feel alive when I read him. So we're going to have a Q&A session, which I'm not going to chair. I don't know, Melissa, if you're going to do that, if you're a co-host.
Yeah, I am.
That'll be fantastic.
I'm
So
Melissa. I didn't say hello to you before. Nice to see you.
Hello, I've just shown my face. Okay, so anybody who would like to ask a question, a comment, just open a discussion with Harry, please either raise your hand on Zoom or pop your question in the chat if you're shy. Titi, I see you've unmuted yourself. If you want to come up first, you're welcome.
Yes, I was just about to raise my hand. Harry Owen is just a fantastic person. I am actually going to read from here, a signed copy later on. Harry, I'm not in Grahamstown anymore, just like you're not. And I was wondering, sort of, how does that feed your poetic life nowadays? And, you know, how's it nourishing? What do you miss most about Grahamstown as well, from that vantage point, being in a different place? I know it's different now that you're in the Western Cape. I'm just wondering about
Yeah, it's
that.
an interesting question, Titi. Thank you for asking it. When we first came to the Western Cape, I missed the Eastern Cape greatly. I still do. It's such a beautiful place, and as you know, it was a very important part of my life. It changed my life for the better, being there in Grahamstown particularly, but the Eastern Cape more generally. The last book I put out is called Thicket: Shades from the Eastern Cape, and that was an attempt, I suppose, to acknowledge its importance to me. Being in the Western Cape, it took me a while to get used to things. It's absolutely stunningly beautiful here. It's picturesque, and we're surrounded by wine farms. Look at this! Look at this! Look at this! You can't go anywhere without it. It's beautiful. It's magnificent. But it took me a while to get used to being constrained, or it felt as though I was constrained. I'm much better now. I feel welcomed, and I know people here. And I didn't know very many people. I knew lots of people, as you know, in Grahamstown. But now I'm feeling welcomed and happy, and things like this evening mean a lot to me when I'm here, because it makes those connections real again. So I'll be going back to Grahamstown soon. I'll be doing a thing at Amarsby that used to be Nelm there in March. I hope to do a reading there as well. So it's not gone. It's just put to one side for a while.
Thank you. What an excellent start to the questions. Next up, I've got a hand from Ed.
Hey, Melissa. Harry.
Hello, Ed. Hi, Ed. Hello there.
Thanks very much for your reading. I'll try and thread my way through this. I noticed that you introduced the whirligig beetle poem with a comment, that it's an insect that's halfway between one world and another. And there was an echo of that idea in one of the Christmas poems where you said, Christmas is where blackbirds skip between worlds. But then I was also immediately struck by one of the gifts of your poetry being, it returns me as one listener to the present, to the present moment. So just an observation. And my question is actually entirely different. it's to do with, or maybe it isn't, it's to do with the fact that you did this thesis and you had a book of poems, and there's an implicit tension already in that title, crafting a default discourse. So without sort of steering things towards something academic, I just wondered, the poem This You is an answer to what I was wondering about. Like for you, what was the tension between this academic language and the poet? It almost feels like the poetic, or writing the poems, was that some sort of release? What was it like? I don't know if the question is clear, but the relationship between the book of poems and the thesis, was it an adversarial thing, or how did that work?
I'm not sure it did work yet. I hope it has. But you're quite right. I mean, I hadn't thought about it in those terms exactly, but there is a tension for me in different worlds. I suppose the whirligig beetle is the epitome of that, really, when he's like almost actually hanging between two worlds. I hadn't thought of the point you made about the blackbird in the Asper U poem, but that's true too. I think I do feel a tension, and I do feel as though I move between two worlds. I think most of us do. As poets, perhaps we try. Maybe I'm generalizing too much here. I'll keep it as me. Maybe it applies to other people as well. But I think we try to move between different different views of the world, different perspectives on the world, different ideas of what the world is, and that default discourse for me, which is what you referred to there, is only one of many ways, not just of viewing the world, but of creating the world. I think we create the world by the language we use. If we want a corporate, capitalist, money-based world, then let's talk that language. We're more likely to create it. But if we want a natural world-based, eco-style world, then we need to talk that way, or at least some of us do. You're never going to be able to overpower what exists already. That's not the idea. But if we can let the world know that this other language is there as well. It's our language, it's poetry, but it's poetry that comes from a world that we can't escape from, even if we pretend we can. So it's a world that exists whether we perceive it or not. And I'm just trying to perceive it. That's all. I think maybe we all do that.
Thank you. I know that you've got the comment, or the one line in one of the poems is, help us to see what is. So that echoes what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think that's right. Oof. These are not easy questions.
Bringing the heat.
It's hot.
Jock,
It's hot.
come stoke the fire here.
Well, I'm not sure that mine is a simplifying one, but I'll try. So, Harry, I always think of you as one of the wonderful hinging poets. You hinge us into a kind of magic that is present in ordinary things. I feel it so strongly in your poems, but tonight I was also interested in the tension. I think that Ed also felt. And I felt it in that poem, the poem of the pond. Your hand is in the pond that goes gloop gloop gloop, that wants to kind of almost suck you in, to sit down with the one we really like. We're full of gas, and let's just sit with that and say, yes, we like that. And at the same time, there are these beckoning stars, which is, I suppose, they're saying, things could be different, things could be better, there could be things that are true for all time. I don't know. There's a religious sense there, possibly, or spiritual dimension. That's like a threshold poem. I was interested in that. Like, how do you, what's the question? I mean,
If you don't know what the question is, Jacques, none of us does. Can I try to answer what you've said already? Let me have a go.
Is it that,
Oh, he's carrying on.
do you think when you read poetry that you really love, or when you're writing a poem and you're in the flow of it, do you feel that poetry is something that could somehow make us better, make us kinder, more loving, or is it the thing that makes us sort of sit down and say, wow, let's really, admit that we're in a bad shape? I suppose it's both, isn't it? It's on that threshold between the two. I don't know if you want to say something about that.
Well, yeah, just briefly, you're right. You're right. It is both. I'm not a religious person, although it has been pointed out to me that I do use somehow Christian imagery quite a lot. That comes from my upbringing, I think, rather than anything else. It's not belief that I have now, but it's there certainly.
It's a kind of gratitude, very strongly.
Yeah, I think it's there. One of the ways when I write this poem, I wrote this a few years ago. I look at it again. I find out things about myself that I didn't know when I wrote it. Or I find things that I suspect about myself rather than know about myself. And I think that's what poetry can do. You say, can it make the world a better place? Yes, of course it can. In fact, I sometimes think poetry, and especially poetry of the natural world, eco-poetry, if you want to call it that, I think it's possibly the only thing that can save us. We have to find a way past all the horrors. I mean, that last poem says something. Really, what it's saying is write poems, say something. Yes, say something in conversation, say something politically, stand up and be an activist, but also say something in your poetry. Let it come out that way. And it's the only way I know how to do it. People have called me an activist, and I don't feel as though I am at all. I just feel I've got something to say. I feel very strongly about it, and this is the way it comes out. If it works, I hope it works at least for some people, but if it doesn't, I have to say it anyway.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Fascinating conversation. Titi, you want to add something there?
Thanks. I have another question for you, Harry. So it's been almost 23, 24 years of being published. What keeps it new, Harry? What keeps it new for you and fresh?
It's like saying what keeps breathing new for me, or what keeps that fresh. I've just got to get on with it. It's happening, and someday it will stop. You just have to do it. I've hinted before that I feel sometimes I'm just saying the same thing, but we breathe the same breath. We breathe the same air. We go to the beach, the air is different. You go to the mountains, the air is different. You go into the middle of a big city where it's polluted, the air is different. But you keep on breathing. And that for me is what poetry is. Wherever I go, whatever I am in, whatever surrounds me, I just have to find some way of expressing it. I know that sounds a bit twee and pretentious, but it's just the case. I just have to say it that way. Can I just say something here, because somebody I haven't met but I see is here is Ian Bell. I wonder, Ian, if I can just at least say hello to you, because I wanted to do that. Thank you for being here. You're in UK, I think. Is that right? Yeah. Well, thank you for being here. I do appreciate your presence.
Great pleasure, Harry. Thank you. And I've enjoyed your work since the first time I heard it.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that.
Good to meet you.
Yes. Can I go home now?
No.
Good question. Have we got anyone else who wants to ask anything, say anything?
While you're thinking about it, I'm having a glass of wine.
Yeah, because Harry, I
Well
feel like
deserved.
we definitely love you as a poet, but it would be interesting. I think you'd be interesting as a short story writer. Have you ever secretly tried wanted to? Never.
I've written one short story. It was crap. I know.
Me
I
too.
you know, you try to write stuff, and people say, "Oh, everybody has a novel in them." No way, no way. I can't do anything like that. Short stories are better because they're more concise, more compact. But no, I'm no good at it. Are you? Are you writing some other?
Words.
No. Sorry, I think I overpowered somebody there, and I didn't mean to.
No, sorry, I was just saying prose needs too many words, Tsitsi and Harry. All the
Yeah.
extra words you have to put in. You know, it's onerous.
No,
I've got
it's
to
just
say,
when
you're
I
right. You're
listened
right.
to the academia poem. You left me with this imaginative thing of, oh, I wish I knew if there was a story. I mean, it's that's the beauty of the poem. And it just left me thinking, and yeah.
I do think that we're all swamped in narrative. There are narratives everywhere. Some people write them down as short stories, some as novels, some as poems, plays, whatever it is. So that they're there. There's no question about that. And it's interesting that Jeannie just said something about there are more words. When I was writing the thesis, of course, you have to write that as prose. Although it's based on poetry, and Dan Wiley's and Chris Mann's poems are there, but then you have to analyze it and have to think about it. And I had fun doing that. I mean, I was accused once or twice of being a little excessive, a bit over poetic perhaps, and I had to trim that down. But that's part of the discipline of the thing, and I did enjoy that. And
Let me do it.
I hope it reads well, but it's not a short story. Sorry.
Sorry, I thought I was muted.
Who's saying sorry?
Melissa.
Oh. Who's that? I can see Petra.
I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, please. I'm gabbling now. Please interrupt me.
Jeannie, did you want to ask anything else, or was that your only comment? Because I know you did unmute yourself. Just that.
No, I was just interjecting.
Okay.
Thanks.
Cool. I do see a hand up from Mary as well. Hi, Mary.
Hello,
Hi.
Mary.
Hello. Hi, Harry. Yeah, that was
Hi.
great, that reading. Yeah.
Thank you.
I thought it was quite funny that you started off by saying, well, at some point you were saying, have you ever felt like you've said it all? And then you went and said your last poem said it all.
No, I never said it all, does it? I mean, you're saying, it feels like you're repeating yourself. You're saying it. You say, I've done this before. I've done this before. Sorry, I'm gabbling again. So I'm doing it now. That's the problem. Go ahead, say what you have to say.
No, I was kind of bemused really, because you had said, have you ever felt like you've said it all in your poetry? And then your last poem, which I thought was astonishing, is you actually said it all in that poem. It was, yeah, a very profound and yeah, it was amazing poem. I'd like to hear it again, actually. So is it in a new book, or has it already been published?
No, it's not published. Yes, it is published. It's published in one of the books. Is it in that one that you were showing me before, Tsitsi, called The Cull?
Yes, it's in the cult 2014.
2014. Right.
I suspect it's also somewhere on.
It's in Small
on YouTube
Stones for Bromley.
Yeah. And it's slightly different because I just put a couple of names in here that are perhaps more pertinent to now rather than when it was written. But thank you for saying. I think it says something that's important, and I feel that although I say I worry about having said everything before, I haven't. Of course, I haven't. You could never say everything. It's a ridiculous thing to claim, and I don't really claim it. It's just you want to say what you have to say differently and aim it in a different direction, perhaps. But I do feel that speaking out is important, and that's what that poem is all about. So thank you for saying that, Mary.
Yeah, no, and I haven't ever come across you as a poet. I'm kind of fairly new in the world
Neither
of
have I,
poetry.
to be honest with you. I'm not sure who I am.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good answer. Yeah, and it's, anyway, it's good to be here again with the red wheelbarrow. So nice to see everybody.
Mary, can I just come back to you? If you'd like for me to send you that poem, I can send you a copy of it if you give me an email address. So if you
Oh,
want to do,
great.
if you put an email
Lovely.
address in the chat or something like that, I'll send you a copy.
I'll do that. That'd be very nice. Thank you.
Very generous. And Elizabeth, hi, Liz.
Hi, Liz. I don't know why I say Elizabeth. Thank you, Harry. I really enjoyed your poems. What strikes me is your voice. You're a troubadour. You're not a short story writer. You're, I don't know, a Shakespearean sort of whimsical.
Oh, come on, put yourself on mute. This is too much.
And that last poem, it says say something. It's really very important. So thank you for writing that. Super.
Thank you for saying it. I think it's important too.
Yeah.
Thank you, Liz. Anybody else with a last comment or question before we take a short break before the open mic? No, it looks like everybody is questioned out. Harry, you're off the hot seat.
Can I just say
You
thank you
relax.
to everybody thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. Thank you for coming along. Thank you for asking the questions, quite probing questions. But let's just keep doing it. Hey, let's see what happens. Thanks again.